what's up, you guys? You got Sam here today, and we got
Kevin.
your boy Kevin. Anyways, oh man, why am I talking like Tony, dude? This ain't word of the week. All right, enough of that.
This
Anyways,
is, what did you call it?
oh, this isn't binging with samjang.
Oh, it's not?
But we are binging in the word, but no breaking bread today. A little break on that series, right?
Yeah, what are we doing instead, Sam?
Awesome. Anyways, today we're doing, we're talking about some things that are a little inappropriate, and we're gonna do a little series on that.
Okay, I like that. Inappropriate.
No, but for reals, we wanted to do a series relating to talking more about things that are both relevant to us, but also people in our age, especially those who are Asian Americans, and really talking about like things that, you know, that might be a little bit inappropriate to talk at home. For today, we actually had a fun question that was asked about me, because I recently did a seminar with Damascus on relationship, and I got a person who asked me, you know, can I date someone who's of a different culture and ethnicity? And, you know, as you know, Kevin and I, we are actually dating people who are different from, you know, what our ethnicity is.
Yeah, you're right.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You're dating a Vietnamese, but you're Korean. And then I'm Vietnamese, but I'm also dating someone who's Chinese.
Yep.
So a little different, kind of interesting. Would love to kind of hear both our takes on, you know, what's that's been like. Maybe some biblical references as to what it supports, and even just like, hey, like, you know, what can we kind of draw and give to the audience here?
Yeah, you want to give your take first, or should I go first?
Yeah. Real quickly, I mean, biblically, the first thing I really told about to the attendees in the audience for the seminar was referencing Jacob, and really with his father Isaac. And one of the things that he said was, you know, telling his son to go and find a wife, but not of Canaan where they were, but instead go to amongst his tribes and people, and find a wife there. Also, his brother Esau actually ended up, if you didn't know, ended up marrying with two Canaanites, and I believe that one of them ended up being like a prostitute. There was a lot of history, like negative history, that revolved around the Canaanite women's actually. Yeah.
So I think what we see there with God's law is more of God saying he wants believers to marry believers as opposed to believers marrying the same race. Because I actually think back to Moses in Numbers 12:1, where Moses actually marries a Cushite, which is a black woman.
Yeah.
Right. And in Numbers 12:10, like through those 10 verses, we see Moses's sister-in-law Miriam begins to get angry at Moses for it.
Yeah.
And God actually strikes not Moses for his relationship, but Miriam for her words, and she gets leprosy. It's almost like you're associating blackness with, you know, being evil. Well, let me strike you with something that makes your skin completely white.
Yeah.
So it's not about the color, I guess. It's more about your heart.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I remember even just Old Testament talking a lot, oh, you know, don't intermix race, and people often misunderstand that as like, you know, don't date someone outside of your ethnicity. So, which I'm assuming this kind of gives both of our takes of like, you know, obviously we're dating people.
But I mean, like, I would say like John Piper has a really good article about this. And his two comments that always stuck out with me. First is, it's impossible for two races to say we don't want to marry each other, but still view each other as equals. Like that can't happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, but we also know that before our ethnic markers, we view our Christian markers. So what can tear the veil between the Gentiles and the Jews? It's the gospel. So there's that. But the second quote that he mentioned is that, like, he admits, getting into a relationship with someone from a different culture is hard. Like, there's going to be misunderstandings. There's going to be different ways of doing life. Like the way that I grew up, the way that my parents views my culture, is completely different from how Casey grew up, and how she's used to things.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably the same for you, right?
Yeah. Definitely different takes, but I agree. I think the one thing that always comes down to is like, can we agree on faith?
Yeah.
And the core principles about it. And I think maybe you can even argue that's like the bridging gap between first generation, second generation, like Asian Americans, and like between us and our parents too.
Yeah. And there's just opportunities more to love, right? I think, like if I can quote something from John Piper really quickly, he says, "Will it be harder to be married to another race? And will it be harder for the kids? Maybe, maybe not. But since when is that the way a Christian thinks? Life is hard. And the more you love, the harder it gets." And I think that's true. It's, like, do me and Casey have different love languages? Sure. Like, do we have different cultural backgrounds? Sure. But like the world thinks of that way, where like the more in common you have, the more you probably should be together. But for a Christian, having Christ is enough, right?
I don't know. What would you say your advice is for maybe someone who's not necessarily like high school or even early college? Does this matter? And then maybe like if your parents disagree with it or aren't aligned with it, what's really kind of like the best way to approach it?
I mean, like, if I take the comedic side of this, like, obviously don't fetishize a certain like culture and like only go for them, right? Like that's
yellow
fever, like, right? Like you shouldn't be like, I'm only going for Chinese girls and that's all I'm looking for, right? But I mean, like, if that's like if you fall in love with them and the way that they love God, right? You guys end up in a relationship together. I think the biggest advice would be communication, right? Like you can't over communicate. Share about how like maybe there's some certain things that you are used to that they're not used to, vice versa, and you should probably share these things. There's another thing that Elaine said that really helped. She pointed out how like if it's with your family, you should communicate. If it's with their family, then your relationship partner should communicate. That usually helps out like solve a lot of, I think, like misunderstandings and issues. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've been trying to do a lot more was just being like sharing what kind of like some of the cultural differences what we have, and I think keeping an open mind of like the differences, and then seeing like, hey, is this like a healthy or unhealthy thing, and then kind of just being open and accepting to like what is good, and then what are areas that we can really be open to. So like I remember I was telling Hannah about like the story of like for weddings, like we trade the wife for a pig. And I was like, it's like,
that's fair.
And it's just rooted in kind of like old Vietnam traditions, or even like with Chinese, where we had this idea of exchange land and property for the woman. And so these are things kind of like you laugh at, and it's just like the kind of humor, but sometimes there are more things that are rooted in within the family culture. For example, if you do date someone who's Vietnamese, what if they are both believers, but they also believe in what's that word called, like ancestor worship, or like even just giving like attributing something to it, and it's like they would say, oh, it's not worshiping anything, it's just honoring or remembering. And so, or even those who believe in superstition or like feng shui and all that, it's like those are cultural things where you're like, part of you does not want to disrespect, but also it's like, hey, is this a really healthy area or not?
No, that's fair. I think this is I think a lot of really good insights to how to honor God in these relationships, like that God transcends cultures, and at the end of the day, our marriage should be a ministry of reconciliation, honoring Christ, as opposed to having the priority honoring our parents, right? So any other last thoughts, Sam?
No. Hopefully this was a little good insight. It's a little combination of both our experience as well as just importing what we see into the Bible and how we've been living our life out. But hopefully that was helpful. All right. Until the next episode of Inappropriate. See you guys.
P.S. If you guys have any tips for me as a Korean dating a Vietnamese, feel free to message me. Let me know. I love you guys.
All right. Put it in the comments down below. Appreciate it. See you
Bye.
guys.